Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Polity Quick Revision series. So in this video, we'll talk about the sessions of Parliament. So here we'll take a look at the procedure by which the Parliament can be summoned or adjourned or prorogued. So without any further delay, let's get started.
Right? The president may from time to time summon each house of the parliament to meet. So meaning he or she, the president, is the one who is going to be summoning each house to start meeting. Okay, now there is a question about, let's say there is a gap. Now the gap can be how far? Okay, it cannot be less than, it has to be less than 6 months. Okay, or basically the wording is it cannot be more than 6 months. Okay, just remember that. Okay, always remember this sort of a term. Cannot be more than 6 months and at least 2 times a year. At least twice a year. Okay, at least twice a year. But generally you will notice that you have a budget session, you have a monsoon session, and you have a winter session. Budget session is basically Feb, March, April, May. Okay, approximately around 4 months. 3-4 months. Okay, then July to September. Okay, and November to December. Relatively smaller, but this is like some big deal is there, right? Annual financial statement, prepare it, provide the speech. Okay, what exactly is going to be the priorities of the government, especially, how exactly do they see the financial sort of allocation. Now, after that is done, and this, the last part of the chapter that I told you, right? Second last part of the chapter is that how do you pass this, right? How does the executive that passes the budget, right? How do they get the money sort of sanctioned from the legislature? What is the role of legislature in sort of understanding what has been spent in the previous year? Okay, questioning, criticizing, right? All of that, and plus sort of allocating what is required for the second year or the coming year. Okay, and if possible, have you guys listened to the speech, the budget speech? There's another sort of useful exercise. Because for your prelims you want to go through your budget as well. Okay, and budget is generally it'll be like a 15-20 page sort of document, budget speech. Okay, you can either read it or on YouTube you will be able to see it. It's like probably 2 hours. Okay, and depending upon how fast you can put it, okay, 1.5 times or something like this, but generally they're like quite slow, so you can even go into twice. Okay, and you can listen to it and you will get a very good idea about like what are the sort of things that are they're probably going to talk about, like, the COVID, how much exactly are they going to sort of allocate for, health? What are the priorities within health? Okay, where do we stand in terms of, some important sort of things like your agriculture, right? The protests. So many of those things you will be able to see. It's a very good thing. I would suggest that, even if it takes you like 1.5 times or let's say 2 hours, it is actually worth it. Okay, it is actually worth it. Okay. Or another one here is that you will also have a Yojana and a Kurukshetra. And this comes out in April. It was sort of delayed this year. So it should be in April. Okay, after March/April. I'm not sure. I think it was in March. And here it'll be about rural budget. Okay, if there is any question in the prelims about this budget, you will be able to see it here. Okay, and it is not that difficult. Sometimes it'll be given in italics. Okay, sometimes it'll be given in bold. Okay, just see what they are. Are they new schemes? Right? Are they new sort of slogans? Things like that. If you can just go through those, it'll be quite useful. Anyway, coming back to your prelims mode, right? A session of parliament is a period spanning between the first sitting of the house, when all of us, let us say we are all elected MPs, we go and sit in the house. Okay, so that is the beginning, and then until its prorogation or dissolution. Okay, we'll take a look at what are the differences. During the session, the house meets every single day to transact business, and generally the sessions are 11 to 1, and then you have from 2 to 6 or something like this. Okay, and in parliament you can, there's a canteen, you can go and eat there, and other fun goodies. Right, this is your parliament activities. So how many hours is this? This is basically a total of 2 and 4. Okay, total of 6 hours. Should the parliament meet more often? Should they spend more time discussing, debating? Why does it seem like a lot of time not? So for instance, May mein khatam hota hai, or like it gets done in May, and you have June, right? 1 month off, and then July to September, then October is another month off. Okay, and then you have another month between December and Feb, that is your Jan. So 3 months off, right? Even teachers get only like maybe like 45 days, or like maybe a maximum around 2 months, right? So does that mean that they should meet more often? Areas in which you don't have a right or wrong sort of an answer that you have read somewhere, right? Now this could be, if you say yes, you have to defend that. If you say no, you may have to defend that. The only thing is that, see, this is not being in parliament, okay, on the floor of the house, and carrying out these sort of activities, legislative activities, is not the only sort of activity that our MPs and our representatives are supposed to do. In fact, what they're supposed to do behind the scenes is go through many of those bills that are pending. Okay, there may be some committees, and many of these members may be members of those committees. Go and participate in those committees, read what is required for that committee, come prepared for those. Okay, ensure that you sort of have studied whatever sort of sector, or that you've been following, and provide some criticism for it, okay, or some feedback for it. Provide some options of amendments that you can move, so that maybe the government will probably think about sort of amending something, right? So these are all the other contributions. So it is not that this is the only job that they have, and that is why it is, they have quite a, it seems like they have quite a bit of time off. Okay, summoning. So after this, once the president summons, then we get to meet. Okay, and until you're either proroguing, or you are sort of going to have a dissolution. Dissolution is final, okay, expiry. Now adjournment, okay, and adjournment sign die. So this is what it is. So again, what you have to see is what exactly is the sign die that is added to your adjournment. See, in adjournment, a session of the parliament consists of many meetings, okay, and the meetings are from 11 to 1 and then 2 to 6 p.m. A sitting of the parliament can be terminated by adjournment. So that particular day's sitting, okay, can be sort of terminated by adjournment. Okay, it can be by adjournment, but it could also be by adjournment sign die, your prorogation, your dissolution, okay, certain other sort of aspects. The adjournment does what? Adjournment, and the most important line here, is that it suspends the work in a sitting. Okay, in a sitting. Okay, so for today we are done. We are meeting on so and so date, right? We are meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. sharp. Okay, now that could be your adjournment. But adjournment sign die, okay, it is terminating a sitting of parliament for an indefinite period. Okay, when you close down, not only for the day, but you've not mentioned when exactly is your reassembly, then you call it adjournment sign die. Now, both of these things are the power of, who gets to call for adjournment and adjournment sign die? Anybody? Does the president? Yeah, go ahead. Is it the president?
The chairman or the speaker?
Chairman or the speaker. Okay, very well done, Rahul. So, and adjournment sign die?
Same, sir.
Okay, now, so in this particular kind of topics, right, the sessions of parliament, okay, and the terms you're summoning, adjournment and adjournment say, whose power is it? Okay, keep that in mind. Whose power is it? Okay, now the power of the adjournment as well as adjournment sign die is with the presiding officer of the house. He can call a sitting of the house before the date or time to which it has been adjourned, or at any time after the house has been adjourned, sign die. Okay, so he has a lot of power. So both adjournment and adjournment sign die are the powers of the presiding officer of the house. Okay, are the power of the presiding officer of the house. Then what about prorogation? Let us see what is prorogation. Okay, and there is a table that in which we are going to compare what is your adjournment and your prorogation. Now see, presiding officer, while he declares the house, okay, adjourned, sign die, right? The president issues a notification for prorogation of the session. Okay, so prorogation is the power of the president. Okay, PR. Okay, PR. Okay, I'm sure you mean just a small little trick for you to remember, or remember it like quick. Okay, so prorogation is basically what? It is discontinuing a session. okay, or your legislative assembly, wherever it is, okay, without dissolving it. So once the chairman of the house is going to adjourn, sign, die, okay, for an unlimited whatever, not a for indefinite sort of a period of time, within a few days the president will issue a proper notification for prorogation of the session. Okay, we hereby say that our budget session is done, okay, done and dusted. Now until monsoon session, okay, parliament is sort of off. Okay, so that is what it is. Now if you again want to compare your adjournment and prorogation, okay, so it only terminates a sitting, okay, and not a session of the house, but this is more about the session of the house, monsoon session, okay, today's sitting. Do you see the difference? Today's sitting or monsoon session. Okay, it is done by the presiding. See, this is sort of an important point. Okay, so they may give you some of these: adjournment, sign, die, prorogation, whose power is, okay, is which one. Okay, you should be able to know this. Okay, PR. Okay, it does not affect the bills or any other sort of business pending before the house, and the same can be resumed when the house meets again, and that could be as early as tomorrow, okay, or it will be next Monday. But here it also does not affect the bills or any other business pending before the house. However, all pending notices lapse on prorogation. So what sort of expires? You will see pending notices, okay, on the prorogation, and fresh notices have to be given in the next session. But see, in Britain, okay, from whom we have taken a lot of our parliamentary system, they have many different ways of doing things. Okay, for instance, the power of the Rajya Sabha is different. Okay, House of Elders as they call it. Okay, or House of Commons as the Lok Sabha equivalent, right? That sort of power is different. Okay, so there are many differences. Again, there is a particular syllabus line in your mains polity, okay, where you will come across those aspects. Okay, so in Britain, prorogation brings an end to all the bills and any other sort of business pending before the house. So every time you sort of come back, you'll have to have a new sort of thing. But anyways, do not focus on what happens elsewhere, but remember clearly, very clearly, what happens in the Indian context. Okay, Indian context. If it is dissolution, what if I say it is dissolution? What are the bills that sort of lapse? What will be the bills that lapse? Anybody? Do you remember?
The ones which are pending in Lok Sabha.
And the Rajya Sabha.
Okay, and the second one is Lok
Sabha. A bill
Sabha.
passed by Lok Sabha but pending in Rajya Sabha.
Excellent. Aishwarya, Manvi, and Rahul. Excellent. Okay, pending in Rajya Sabha. Some of you mentioned that you're not so confident about your sort of, your memory, but seems like, you guys have it, it's pretty good. Okay, so I think you're sort of underestimating yourself. Okay, because I just introduced this and you're still able to recall it. So that is great. Okay, or I hope that you've written it down, because sometimes, today you might remember it because it's 10 minutes, but 3 days later, it might be something that you may not even remember that was discussed in class, right? So important areas, you can just note those down. Okay. Again, now rights of ministers, what is the role of Attorney General? There are these. So the reason I've given you this is not because this is such an important sort of paragraph here, but however, this is how your paragraphs will be. Okay, every one of these headings will be given in, let's say, somewhat 20 lines. Okay, you just have to go and try to see in rights of ministers and Attorney General in this particular subheading, what are the things that I have to sort of, what are my takeaways from this, right? And then highlight those. Okay, highlight those, or you scribble it down on the side. I don't know what is your style. Okay, mine is I have different sort of colored highlighters depending upon how well I remember it. So for instance, after the first reading I still don't remember, those will be of one particular color. If in the second revision also I did not remember some aspects, that is only that is going to be in a different color, and so on and so forth. So I have like some 4 or 5 sort of different highlights in my in my textbooks. So, and plus there's I've scribbled like anything. I'll send you some pictures if possible. I don't know if Zoom allows for it. Okay, but literally, I've anything and everything that I need to that I cannot recall, that requires me for 10-20 sort of revisions, I'll just note it down. Okay, and it will not be like, these are the things I need from Parliament chapter, right? Whatever comes to my mind, I feel like, this is not something that I have it down, I'm not very confident with this thing. I will probably require more and more revisits. I'll just write those down and try to keep revisiting as often as possible. Does this allow for a picture? No, right? I'll just share my number, share some question papers later as well. Okay, so anything that I find useful, okay, WhatsApp or something like that. Okay, you guys can just leave me a text so I know who it is. Okay, so in this particular paragraph, what are we trying to take a look at? So in addition to the members of the House, every minister, okay, every minister and the Attorney General of India have the right to speak and take part in the proceedings. So basically, the highlights here are going to be, you have a right to speak. Okay, you can take part in the proceedings of either house. Okay, one way to remember this thing, the way I generally do this thing is that, see, I'm sort of, I wouldn't say politically active, I would say politically conscious. Politically conscious. Okay, right from, student government, university days, before that, right? So I was quite interested, right? So I've been following this thing. So what I try to do is try to connect it to something that I know. So you will see Manmohan Singh, who's been elected from some other house, will be the one, talking in both houses. Or can you tell me somebody else from Rajya Sabha who, any other sort of minister from Rajya Sabha?
Nirmala Sitharaman.
Nirmala Sitharaman, wonderful. I'm not sure. I think I messed up a spelling. I think it might be Seetha, and then you have Manmohan Singh. Okay, you had Arun Jaitley. There are many. Okay, so that does not mean they can only go and be participating in your Rajya Sabha. They will be in your Lok Sabha as well. Okay, in your Lok Sabha as well. So minister who can participate. One second. So any joint sitting of both the houses or any committee of the parliament. So you can be present in joint sitting of both houses. Okay, you can be part of any committee of the parliament for which he is a member. Okay, but now let's say he is not or she is not going to be entitled to vote. So does that mean, so for instance, let us see, we'll talk about, let's say, Nirmala Sitharaman ji or Manmohan Singh or who's this, Arun Jaitley, okay, or a foreign minister right now, right? It does not mean while they participate in Lok Sabha that they get to vote in Lok Sabha. Their vote belongs in which house? It is going to be a vote in Rajya Sabha only. So what exactly are your roles in your Lok Sabha, right? You can take part, you have the right to speak and take part in the proceedings. Why so? What is the point? While you might be only responsible to the Lok Sabha, okay, the House of the People, okay, House of Commons, Lok Sabha, right? If that is the case, if I am a member of Rajya Sabha, what power do I have to sort of, bring in some accountability? I need to be able to, sort of ask questions to the ministers and all, right? So he has a right to vote or she has a right to vote and, sort of take part in the proceedings of the House. Okay, if there is joint sitting, you're present, any committees, again, so all of those sort of aspects. So minister can participate in the proceedings of the House for which he is not a member. In other words, a minister belonging to the Lok Sabha can participate in the proceedings of the Rajya Sabha and vice versa. A minister who is not a member of either house, you guys remember, right? You need not be a member of the House and for how long? What is the time period in which, by which you have to be? I think somebody mentioned it.
6 months.
6 months.
6 months. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, good. Okay, and there is something called lame duck session. Be aware of what is lame duck. It refers to the last session of the existing Lok Sabha. Okay, they sort of come together and they say their goodbyes. There are some, this is right after a general election, some of them are going to be brought back or they have actually won their elections. They're going to be there. Some of them are sort of retiring from politics itself. Some of them have not been able to sort of come back. So what exactly is it? So those members of the Lok Sabha who could not get re-elected at the new Lok Sabha are called the lame ducks. Okay, you are sort of not coming back. So basically, it's like a farewell party, right? Means
All right, guys. So that brings us to the close of our video. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you found the video to be useful. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the very next video.